After studying this module, you would be able to understand the concept of organization appraisal and its process, understanding the dynamics of the internal environment, know the value chain analysis as a technique of organizational appraisal. The internal environment of the organization is determined by the interplay of the organization's resources, behavior, strengths and weaknesses, synergistic effects, and its competencies. Organizational appraisal is concerned with the internal environment of an organization. It enables a firm to decide what it can do by analyzing the organizational resources and behavior, strength and weakness, synergistic effects, and the competencies. Organizational appraisal. Organizational appraisal is the systematic evaluation of the internal environment of a firm in order to determine the strengths and weaknesses that influences a firm's ability to achieve its goals. Organizational strengths enable a firm to decide the area which it should undertake. For example, firms having their strengths in marketing area should go for marketing activities rather than going for the production and manufacturing. By analyzing the weaknesses, an organization can take various actions to overcome it. Analyzing the strengths and weaknesses and matching them with the environmental opportunities and threats, it is very necessary for a strategic formulation of a firm. Generally, the strengths and weaknesses of an organization are measured in terms of its environment. Otherwise, it is very difficult to state which factor is strength or which factor of the firm is weakness. The process of the organizational appraisal is described through a sequence of the activities which are as follows. Key factor identification. The various factors that can be evaluated to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the organization are identified in the very first step of the organizational appraisal. The selection of the key factors may relate to marketing, finance, accounting, manufacturing, research and development, organization structure and management pattern, etc. The key factors should cover all aspects of the organization. Identification of importance of factors. The importance of the key factors may not be equal. Some factors are more important and some are less important. The nature of organization and its environments determine the relative importance of the factors. The contribution of each factor in the achievement of certain key results also determine their relative importance. Also, by relating the key factors with the critical success factors of the firm, the relative importance of the factors can be determined. Here, the importance of the key factors are identified and are compared with the requirements of the critical success factors. Assessing strengths and weaknesses on key factors. The strategic key factors help to assess the organizational strengths and weaknesses. In respect of these factors, the contribution made by the factors in achieving the organizational objectives define the organizational strength on that factor. The negative contributions made by the factor in achieving the organizational objectives define the organizational weaknesses on that factor. The organizational strength and weaknesses can also be assessing by making the comparatively analysis of the key strategic factors with those of competitors. Also, there are some techniques like financial analysis, key factor rating, functional area profile and resource development matrix, etc. that helps in the assessment of the organizational strength and weaknesses. Preparing the organizational capability profile. The organizational capability profile is prepared on the basis of organizational strength and weakness. This profile shows the strong areas of the organization in terms of degree. If quantitative measurement is used for the strength and weakness, then positive number can be used for the strength and negative number can be used for the weakness. Relating organizational capability to the strategy. Here, many strategic action is taken to increase the organizational strength and reduce the organizational weakness. The result of these strategy in the long run that fits the organization into environment taking into account the strategic strength. Dynamics of the internal environment. The analysis of the internal environment of an organization helps it to determine what it can do given the organizational resources and behavior and strengths and weaknesses. The interplay of an organization resources, behavior, strength and weakness, synergistic effects and competency help it to excel in the particular field and thereby giving the organization the strategic advantage. Thus, the nature of the internal environment of an organization can be determined by its resources, behavior, strengths and weaknesses and competency of an organization. The various components of the internal environment of an organization are organization resources. The various organizational resources can be tangible as well as intangible. That includes all assets, capabilities, organizational processes, information, knowledge, etc. These resources can further be classified as physical, human and organizational resources. Technology, plant and equipment, geographical location, etc. are the example of physical resources of an organization. Training, experience, judgment, intelligence, relationships, etc. are the human resources present in the organization. The formal and informal relationships are the structures, are the organizational resources of an organization. All these resources can lead to strategic advantage for an organization if these resources possesses the four characteristics, that is, they are valuable, rare, costly to imitate and non-sustainable. When a firm possesses superior resources and they are being utilized more efficiently, it will lead to better satisfaction for the customers, giving them better value for a given cost, and that will lead to a superior strategic advantage for the firm. Thus, the most important factor on which the success of the organization depends is the cost and the availability of the resources along with the efficiency with which they are being used. Organizational behavior. The various forces and influences that creates the ability for or places constraint on efficient utilization of resources in an organization constitute the organizational behavior of an organization. The quality of the leadership, philosophy of a management, shared values and culture, quality of work and environment, organizational climates, politics in an organization, and the use of the power, etc. are some of the important forces and influences that affects the organizational behavior. Organizational behavior is the special identity and the character of the organization. Strength and weaknesses. When the organizational resources and the behavior combines, they create strength and weakness for an organization. The inherent capability within the internal environment of an organization that helps to gain strategic advantage is the strength of the organization. On the other hand, the inherent limitation or the constraint that creates strategic disadvantage is the weakness of the organization. For example, the availability of various sources of finance at a low cost of capital and efficient utilization of the same is an example of the financial strength of the organization. The strength and the weakness combined with the different functional areas within an organization creates synergistic effect for the firm. Synergistic effects. Synergistic effects is expressed as 2 plus 2 is equal to 5 or 3 effect. For example, the product, pricing, promotion and distribution aspects of an organization if supports each other and creates synergistic effect resulting in the high level of marketing synergy. Synergic effects are important determinant of the quality and the type of internal environment existing within an organization. Synergic effects may lead to the development of the competency of an organization. Competencies. The resources and the behavior of the organization develops certain strengths and weaknesses, which when combined leads to the synergistic effects of the firm. Such effects in turn lead to the organizational competencies. Competencies are the special qualities of the organization which is the net result of the strategic advantage and disadvantage that determines its ability to compete with its rivals. The capability to use the competency exceedingly well turns them into the core competencies. Organizational capability. The capacity or the potential of an organization to use its strength and overcome its weakness in order to exploit the opportunities and face the threats in its external environment is called the capability of the organization. The resources of the organization, though valuable and unique, may be worthless without its capability. Organizational capability is measurable and comparable attribute which is the sum total of resources and behavior, strength and weakness, synergistic effect and the competency of any organization. Strategic and competitive advantage. The outcome of the organizational capability is the strategic advantage. They are the net result of the organizational activities leading to rewards in terms of profit, shareholder value, market share, reputation, etc. The penalties in terms of financial loss and damage to market share are the strategic disadvantage of an organization. Strategic advantage are measured in absolute terms like higher the profit, better is the strategic advantage. They are also comparable in terms of historic performance as well as the current performance with respect to its competitors in the industry. The competitive advantage is relative and is measured and compared with respect to other rivals in the industry. In the competitive advantage, the rewards or penalties could be measured against one or more identified rivals, so it is a special case of the strategic advantage. Value chain analysis as a technique of organizational appraisal. The concept of value chain analysis was developed by the Porter in 1985. Based on the understanding of the series of activities that a firm performs, this method helps to assess the strengths and weaknesses of an organization. A value chain is a set of interlinked value creating activities performed by an organization. The competitive advantage of a firm can be determined with the linkages and the relationships between the various activities that a firm performs. The various activities of a firm may begin with the procurement of the basic raw material that processes into various stages and end with the product marketed to the ultimate consumer. Primary and support activities are two main parts into which the Porter divides the value chain of manufacturing concern. Primary activities are further divided into 5 sub-activities and are directly related to the flow of the product to the consumers. These are inbound logistics. These activities are concerned with the receiving, storing, transporting and distributing inputs to the production process. These activities include materials handling, stock control, transport, warehousing, etc. Operations. These activities are concerned with the transportation of the raw material into the final product or service. For example, this would include machining, packaging, assembling, fabricating, maintaining and testing, etc. Outbound logistic. These activities are concerned with the receiving, storing, transporting and distributing the outputs out of the production process. For tangible products, these activities could be warehousing, material handling and transport. In case of services, it may be more concerned with the arrangements for the bringing customers to the service if it is a fixed location. Marketing and sales. These activities are concerned with all the methods that an organization uses to market and sell its product to the customers. For example, typical marketing and the sales activities that an organization uses are of pricing, developing products, advertising, promoting and distributing. Services. These are concerned with all the activities that an organization uses to enhance or maintain the value of its product or service. For example, service activities of an organization can be installation, repair, spares, customer training, etc. Each of the primary activities is linked to the support activity, and the support activity are provided to sustain primary activities. The support activities are firm infrastructure. In order to analyze and ascertain the opportunities, threats, strengths and weaknesses in the external environment, an organization performs various activities. These activities generally helps in the management of the organization and for achieving its objectives. All such activities are categorized into the firm infrastructure. Typically, accounting, finance, planning, general management, legal support, and managing government relationships are categorized into the firm infrastructure activities. Human resource management. To manage the human resource of the organization, various activities are performed like recruitment, selection, training, developing, appraising, and compensating employees. All such activities are put under the head of human resource management activities. Technology development. In order to create, develop, and improve its product and services, various activities are performed by the organization like research and development, product design, process design, equipment design, and servicing procedures. These activities are categorized as the technology development activities. Procurement. In order to procure products and to provide services, an organization needs to procure inputs. All the efforts headed towards the procurement of the inputs for the organization are categorized into the procurement activities. The value chain analysis is the interrelation of this chain of various primary and support activities that are required to be undertaken for bringing the finished product into the ultimate consumer. The efficiency of the use of these interrelated activities determine the profit margin that an organization can earn. It is a useful method of the organization appraisal. This method provides clarity about the strengths and weaknesses in the internal environment of the organization. In general, the activities that provide more value to the customer at less cost are the strength of the organization, and the activities that provide less value to the customer at more cost are the weakness of the organization. In such a case, the organization should outsource those activities that an external party could perform better, and the areas where the organization is strong should be retained as they are the competencies of the organization. Thus, value chain analysis is a very useful method for organizational appraisal. However, this method serves from various limitations as this method seems to be very simple, but it is very difficult to implement. The term value is very hazy as it is very difficult to define what constitutes value for the customer. This method requires the data collection from the various resources, which is in itself a very difficult task. The interplay of the organizational resources, behavior, strengths and weaknesses determine the internal environment of the organization. Organizational appraisal is the systematic evaluation of internal environment of a firm in order to determine the strengths and weaknesses that influences a firm's ability to achieve its goals. The process of the organization appraisal is described through a sequence of activities which includes key factors identification, identification of importance of the factors, assessing strengths and weaknesses on the key factors, preparing the organization capability profile, and relating the organization capability to the strategy. The analysis of the internal environment of an organization helps it to determine what it can do given the organization resources and behaviors and strengths and weaknesses. The interplay of the organization resources, behavior, strength and weakness, synergistic effects, and competency help it to excel in the particular field and thereby giving the organization the strategic advantage. The various components of the internal environment of the organization consist of the organization resources, organization behavior, strength and weaknesses, synergistic effects, competencies, organization capability, and strategic and competitive advantage. A value chain is a set of interlinked value creating activities performed by organization. The competitive advantage of the firm can be determined with the linkages and relationship between the various activities of the firm performs. The various activities of the firm may begin with the procurement of the basic raw material that processes into various stages and end with the product marketed to the ultimate customer. Primary and support activities are two main parts into which the potter divides the value chain of the manufacturing concern.